Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Singer Lucio, and I'm the ADA coordinator for the University of Maryland.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rikki, and I'm a 23-year-old grad student at the University of Maryland.
Great. Thanks, Rikki. Welcome. We're happy to have you here today. I wanted to talk with you a little bit about you and your life on campus with a disability. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I just completed my bachelor's in psychology with UMD, and I went from my associate's to bachelor's in 14 months, so I've been going very hard with coursework. And I have both physical as well as psychological disabilities and learning disabilities as well, which have made my college experience unique, to put it one way.
Yeah, I'm sure that is. So, tell me a little bit about what it's like, what it was like learning you had a disability. And you're welcome to share more about details, whatever you're comfortable with in terms of your disability.
Sounds great. Awesome. For me, finding out about my disabilities has kind of been a process. I was 11 years old when I got diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which, as of right now, that's a very young age to get diagnosed, and it was because I was wheelchair bound for multiple years of my life, and constantly was told that I was just making it up, wanting attention, etc. So finally getting a diagnosis was a huge relief. And so while being disabled is not a great time, every time I've ever gotten a diagnosis, it helps explain why things are happening. And so it's actually like a very positive moment. The only time where I would say like a diagnosis or potential like information regarding the limitations that get placed on my life has been a negative was when I end up having to get surgery on my spine. I got told about a lot of the things that I would no longer ever be able to do again. And so that's the most permanent disability type limitations that I've gotten. As with other situations, I've been, able to have the hope to one day be able to do certain things again. I can't power lift anymore, and I come from a family of power lifters. And so, the fact I couldn't power lift anymore for a while, it was like, okay, but maybe I will be able to eventually. There is no eventually anymore. Lifting more than like 15 to 20 pounds will be an eventful day when I'm allowed to do that again. That's kind of what it's been like moving through the disability path, I suppose.
Yeah, I bet that's been challenging. Can you share a little bit about what it's been like at the different stages of your life? You mentioned at one point in time you used a wheelchair and other things. So tell me a little bit about what each stage was like a little bit.
When I was actually just like right after being born, my mom noticed that there was something strange when she would be putting like the little onesies on me and stuff. She noticed that my shoulders and hips would just actively dislocate like it was normal. And so she went to the doctors and they said, oh, it's normal. It's just a baby. They do that. I'm pretty sure babies aren't supposed to actively dislocate their shoulders and not respond to the dislocation. So that was the first sign that something was wrong. When I got to the age of about 7 or 8 years old and started having more growth spurts, I would be crying myself to sleep every night from the severe pain, and my mother would spend hours just massaging my legs to try and make it so I could sleep at all. And then continuing every day to be going to school and being bullied by students. Being bullied by teachers was a interesting experience, to say the least. Made one lose a lot of faith in humanity at a very young age. And dealing with being told that it was all for attention, being told that it was, psychosomatic by orthopedic doctors because they simply just didn't know what was wrong. And instead of saying, I don't know what's wrong, they just chose to go with psychosomatic because that was better for their ego. And so as I went through the diagnostic process, which started about when I was 8 years old, that's when I started having to use braces on my legs and that kind of thing. Then up until I was 11 years old, about till 10, we can say actually was we were just going to orthopedic doctors because that's what our primary care doctor had recommended to do. And when we had chased down every lead orthopedic wise to all the way to the point of being seen at Children's National in DC, and the point where actual progress and change occurred was the first day I walked into a rheumatologist's office. I got diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It could have been one day, couple months to get diagnosed, and would have saved a lot if we had gotten put in the right direction originally. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of what it was like in the early ages. And yeah.
Wow, that sounds challenging. You know, I talk a lot to students with disabilities and individuals with disabilities, and you know, I think one of the things I try and share with people oftentimes is that not all disabilities are visible. And you know, while somebody who uses a wheelchair or somebody who is blind, you may be able to see that they have a disability, right, or some other physical issue, right? You might be able to see they have a disability, but you know, when looking at you, you like a person, you know, who doesn't use a wheelchair, right? And so, how do you deal with that, right? Because I mean, I think a lot of times people just assume you don't have a disability, and so they I think probably take things for granted. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so that's actually something that is actively impacting my life as we speak, meaning that I have a specific scenario that is being caused by the fact that my disabilities are invisible. With having had spine surgery so recently, because we're not even 4 months out yet. And so with having just had spine surgery, telling people that typically can get it through their heads pretty quickly that like, no, I cannot do what you can do. I cannot do a lot of things that you can do, which people seem to just kind of accept a lot easier than stating that I have a connective tissue disorder that impacts every single cell within my body, and 0 parts of my body function as they're meant to, including organs and skin and blood cells, and understanding how that would impact every aspect of my life is somehow harder for people. My current apartment complex I moved into under the guise that they would be much more accommodating and would be accommodating quickly as I moved within 2 weeks of having spine surgery. So 2 weeks post-operative, my family moved me to a new home because I had been trapped in my apartment for over a month at that point, because I couldn't go up and down the steps. And so it took them 3 months to install the shower grab bars. And I had a shower chair that I brought with me, and I requested those grab bars before I moved in. So yeah, it took them 3 months, which is most decidedly not abiding by the Fair Housing Act, and there's already a situation going on with that. But I mean, they look at me and they don't see someone who needs accommodations. They don't see someone who needs help. They don't see someone who's in severe pain 24/7. What they see is a kid in their early 20s who's just wanting to be lazy or wanting privileges or wanting an advantage over other people or just wanting to be special, when I would very much so like to not be special. I would love to not need accommodations. I would absolutely love to be able to live my life as a normal person, being able-bodied, not having hearing loss, not having, learning disabilities, which made it so school and academia as a whole was a massive struggle throughout my life. And even along the lines of having a learning disability, because I got good grades when I was in elementary school and middle school, I was refused accommodations multiple times.
Really?
Yes. Everything, all of the IEP meetings that we ever did, they refused because I was not failing my classes. Since I was able to take honors classes and figure out how to accommodate myself, which was a lot of my parents reading me my textbooks, because I wasn't struggling to the point of failing, then clearly I didn't have dyslexia or ADHD, despite a licensed psychologist diagnosing me with both. The school psychologist coming into my history class, where my professor was lecturing, not having us do anything. And the fact that I was braiding the person who sat in front of me braiding her hair meant that I didn't have any learning disabilities. So, yeah.
Wow, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. I think oftentimes about when I go to a major parking lot, like at a mall or a major big store, or box store of some sort, and there's a row of wheelchairs of handicap spaces, right? And I see people parking there, getting out of their cars, who, to the naked eye, right, some people would not assume that they have a disability because they don't have a wheelchair, or they don't have some other type of crutch or cane or something other apparatus, right? Do you use handicap parking? Does that ever happen with you? How do you deal with that?
So, dealing with the harassment from both able bodied and other disabled people has definitely been an interesting thing to try and navigate, because I do appear to be perfectly fine from the naked eye. I have had people come up to me and tell me that, I'm not allowed to be using that spot. I don't need that spot, this, that, and the other, as if it's easy to get a permanent handicap placard, as if that's, you just walk into a doctor's office, say, give me, and they do. That's not how that works. So the times where, like, I have had people come up to me, it's gotten to a point where I'll just look at them and be like, oh my God, you mean that I'm cured? And just sit there and wait for them to kind of process what I just said, and being like, oh, so my doctor's wrong now. Okay, love that, thank you. Goodbye, I'm gonna go back to what I was doing now. And if anything, it's typically just disappointing more than anything else. It's not like I'm, a perfect human being. I've certainly had the thought process of, what are they doing parking in a handicap spot? They don't look like they need it. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I don't look like I need it either. And so being able to keep some of that, like, frame of reference definitely is helpful in those situations where it's not as obvious that someone does actually need the accommodations as well. Because, if you look like you can walk, why do you need to not walk?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that there, unfortunately, right, are people who park in the spaces who probably shouldn't. But I think that a lot of people rush to judgment and make assumptions, about people just because of the way they look, and that's not right either. So find a happy medium with that, and I'm not sure what that is, but what have you found helpful to share about yourself with others?
Yeah, so before I did have spine injuries and surgery on my spine, explaining to people that I can dislocate my joints on command, and that I have dislocated my joints and not noticed it, because dislocating is not painful. It's only when I then try to use the dislocated joint that I experience pain. That has been something that has kind of helped to give a soft understanding of the connective tissue disorder. But one of the things that's the most painful and has been the reason why I've ended up in wheelchairs is that my pelvis subluxes. So it kind of sort of dislocates, but not completely, because it's not actually a joint that can dislocate. But yeah, so pelvis changes alignment and is extremely painful, absolutely excruciating. And then any type of like direct vertical pressure on it, horrible, absolutely terrible. Can still get around crawling, but barely. And explaining to someone that my pelvis and my ribs move out of spot and then cause severe pain, and that it's massive pop sounds that is heard when I put them back into place, that has helped. But since I had spine surgery, it's honestly gotten a lot easier. Because spine injuries aren't something that you're born with. They're something that happened to everyone. Whereas a connective tissue disorder is not common. It's more common than we originally thought, but it is still rare. And so, telling people I'm recovering from an injury is widely accepted, especially when you look at me and see someone who should be able-bodied. Just saying, like, yeah, I had a part of my spine removed, so no, I cannot go pick up that 50-pound weight. I only just got approved to pick up 15 pounds. I was on a 5-pound limit for the first 3 months post-operatively. And so it explaining to people just how little I'm able to do during the recovery from my surgery has helped to an extent get the point across, especially to people who, for example, my apartment complex, who have not been great about it, looking at them and saying, hey, you do realize I can't take out my own trash. I physically cannot pick the bag up out of the container without risking my disc exploding and leaving me paralyzed. So yes, I do need a caregiver to be able to come and park here without having to pay $25 every time they park. And yeah, so like sharing kind of the really bad parts of this all, when someone does not understand and they're not quickly getting the point, that can help of just, yeah, you do realize that all those things you do on a daily, yeah, I can't do those.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize some of those things. So I appreciate you sharing those. I think that's really helpful for people to sort of get a different perspective on that, because I think smaller tasks many of us take for granted, right? Like taking out the trash. What do you wish other people knew or understood about you?
So for me personally, one of the things that can be kind of devastating is people assuming that because I'm disabled, I am not able to do like anything, or that I'm lazy because I'm in chronic pain and that kind of thing. Um, I'm very goal driven and highly dedicated, thus the insanity that I was able to pull with my bachelor's. Because I managed to get all A's and one B.
That's great.
Yeah, thank you. Very proud of that accomplishment, because that was while I went through 2 intensive operations and multiple small procedures, including that back surgery happened during my undergraduate process, like the years or year that it took me to graduate. And it honestly was probably the worst year of my life, but my education was very, very big positive role in that. And having people assume that I don't have the ability to accomplish whatever I decide to, simply because I am disabled, simply because I do have limitations, is very disheartening, especially when it comes from other disabled people. I've had someone go ahead and tell me that because I'm disabled, I can't do X, Y, and Z thing, which I know would help me in the future. And having it come from someone who is not exactly, the same, but similar at all, it really hurts, because why are they giving up on me before I've even tried? And yeah, so with all of it, just because someone's disabled, A, it doesn't matter how long they rest. They're never going to feel better. So, B, we keep going. We get up every day, doesn't matter how much pain we're in, and we keep on pushing through. Because the other option is to stop and wait till I feel better. That's not going to ever happen, so I would just stop forever, which sounds miserable. So, I'll take a day or two if I need to, just for, if my pain is so bad that I'm not able to truly stay conscious. But otherwise, I'm going to keep pushing and keep working towards those goals that I've set, because that's what keeps me going. And yeah, so just don't write us off if we're disabled, I guess.
That's great. I appreciate that. I just want to ask one other question. Is there anything else you want to share with us about your experience having a disability, life on campus, being a student, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so I've got some that I can share about being a student specifically here at UMD. My current grad school program that I'm in is an online only program. So for me, I'm not currently on campus. But I was on campus all the way through the spring semester, and then occasionally over the summer as well. And so I can say that UMD has honestly been one of the best experiences I've had when it comes to accommodations. Um, when I would have issues with professors, 99.9% of the time it was quickly and swiftly handled and addressed. Um, you know, as long as I was staying within my little psychology department, everything was wonderful. I don't think I ever actually had any issues with my accommodations within my own department. And it was only ever one class that I was going to take where I did run into an issue, and the professor was not apologetic in the slightest. Which in that case, I dropped the class and just switched to a different one, and everything was fine. I've had some smaller issues, which you and I have discussed previously, but that is like very much so specific to the situations rather than like a problem with the school kind of deal. And yeah, so when it comes to being a student at UMD, the ADS organization has been clearly working hard to better themselves and help the students more learn how to advocate better on our behalf. The paratransit organization has also fixed a lot of the problems that had been identified just in the fall, I believe it was. And they've already been able to implement a lot of changes in their program that were the specific changes we identified, which that was really cool to see, to be completely honest.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah, knowing that the complaints of disabled students are taken seriously and that administration and the leaders of the school actually want to address the complaints, want to make our lives less miserable, we have support here, which is not guaranteed, and it's not an always. And given how many times I've been told that I'm not disabled because of XYZ thing, having gotten into higher level academia and never having someone look at me and tell me I'm not disabled or wanting me to prove that I need my accommodations has been very, very nice, to put it simply. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I am glad to hear you've had a positive experience here at Maryland. That's always good to know. I mean, we're not perfect, but no one is. But, I think the thing is we try. And when you come to me with issues, we try and resolve them as quickly as we can. So I'm glad that that's been working for you. So thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. We appreciate you sharing so much about yourself, and thank you everyone for listening today. For more information on accessibility at the University of Maryland, I encourage you to go to the website accessibility.umd.edu. You can find more information there, and we hope to see you at our next podcast. Thanks so much.